Welcome back to another episode of the Flying G Huddle, your inside look into Gladwin football. I'm Casey Campbell. I am your host, and we are pleased to be joined each and every week by Mark Jartsfer, the head coach of Gladwin. How are you?
Doing all right, Casey. How are you?
Doing well. I honestly, I know it was a tough loss on Friday against Frankenmuth, but again, that's a very, very solid program that they got over there.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said in kind of the pre-game show, I can't say enough good things about the job that Phil Martin does over there and his staff and the way that the community is bought in and it's a unique place to play. They're very good, at what they do and like I said, kind of in that pre-game show as well. I think most teams in the state are aspire to be like them and are trying to figure out ways to get as consistent as they are, and so they're very good and as advertised, and then with a lot of the illness and injuries and things that we were dealing with as well, it made it a very uphill battle right from the get-go. And so like we told the guys at the end of that game, you just kind of have to flush it out of your memory, and we're on to the postseason now. And so when you get into the postseason, it really doesn't matter other than seeding purposes, whether you're 9-0 or you the last team in, right? Everybody has a shot at that point, and you're 0-0, and it's either win or go home. And so now, our focus is on the playoffs, and we're moving forward with that in mind.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about I know we'll talk about MVPs in a minute, but let's preview this upcoming matchup. We got Kingsford coming up. That is, of course, who Gladwin will be playing in their playoff game on Saturday at 2 p.m. at Kingsford. We'll get into the game in a minute, but I just wanted to kind of reveal who the opponent is before because that's probably what you all came here for, to get his reaction to that. So there you go. Let's do MVPs of the you can do the regular season or from that week.
Okay, yeah, we'll go back to just this Frankenmuth game to kind of keep it consistent with what we've done. I thought Trace Corlew had another really good game offensively for us. He ended up with 9 catches for 107 yards, and just has the ability to come down with the ball and make big plays and that kind of thing. And so, in high school football, 9 receptions in a game is a lot. And so he's been our kind of our rock offensively all year, and so he's our offensive MVP. Defensively, Talon Goodwin led us in tackles with 9 tackles. He's somebody that due to injury in week 3, had to move from inside backer to outside backer. And so, throughout these last few weeks, he's really continued to grow and do a good job for us. And so, he's one of our kind of leading tacklers and earned our defensive MVP. And then special teams, we gave to another new face, which is Jackson McKinnon. He just flies around down the field on kickoffs, and when people get in his way, he's not afraid to take them on and run through them and get in on a tackle. And so he ended up with 9 tackles on the night. So kind of our other co-leader defensively, but a few of those tackles came on special teams as well.
Okay, so now let's go through what the JV. Let's recap week 9 of JV. How'd they do this week?
Yeah, they lost to Frankenmuth as well at home. A game similar like ours, and like I said, Frankenmuth is just such a well-oiled machine. It's really impressive what they're able to do. I'm assuming all 3 levels. They have over 100 kids in their program, and when you look at that in comparison to us, we're right around 50, and so just strength in numbers, and it's one of those things that I've talked to our staff about is how do you grow our numbers to try to elevate them and get participation up and try to get in with some of those top end teams in our division. And so it was a tough night for the JV team, but it's there's no shame in losing to one of the best programs in the state, in my opinion. And so it's always a good measuring stick for us. So that's why those games are on the schedule, and so there's certainly a lot of learning experiences that go into it, and we'll look to get better from there.
Okay, so recap the JV season.
They finished 6-3, which is, a pretty solid JV season. As we always talk about on here, it's not as much about wins and losses for us as it is about just player development and kids getting an opportunity to get in the game and play. And so, we took up 6 underclassmen off from that team. 5 sophomores and 1 freshman, and so that those guys obviously all would have been two-way starters had they been down. And so when you look at the amount of playing time that bringing them up frees for other guys that are going to develop because of those opportunities that they're getting that they otherwise wouldn't have, that's kind of one of those invaluable things. And so they still accomplished both missions. They had a good, successful season, wins and losses wise, and we got a lot of guys, a lot of good, valuable experience. And so now the focus for them will be, hopping in the weight room this January and trying to get as big and strong as we can, so that they can come back and continue their progression on the varsity team this next year.
Okay, so let's talk about a staff member this week.
Yeah, this week I'll talk about Coach Nash. He's one of our strength training guys, guy that I graduated with, and Claire. We played together on the same team. He went to CMU and got a bachelor's degree in exercise science, and actually did his internship down in Brighton at Barwis Methods. And really learned a lot through his time there. And at Barwis they train some of the best athletes in the world, and so being a part of that and being able to bring those experiences back to Gladwin to help with our strength and conditioning program has been awesome. He always gives me feedback on what we're doing in the weight room, and is great at teaching technique and form and that kind of stuff. And then in the summer he runs all of our speed and agility stuff as well. And so then in the regular season he helps coach linebackers on defense, and helps, in whatever capacity he needs on that side of the ball. And then same thing on offense. He's just always willing to help with whatever we need help with. And so this year, he's done everything from running backs and slots to receivers and just whatever is needed. And so another volunteer. And as I mentioned, it takes kind of a village of coaches to do this at a high level. And so we're thankful for him, as well as the rest of our volunteers, for all of the sacrifice that they make for our program.
Okay, so of course the as I mentioned earlier, the playoff pairings were announced yesterday for all teams, divisions 1 through 8, and as well as the 8-player divisions. So everybody knows where they're going to be playing this week. As I mentioned earlier, Gladwin will be heading to Kingsford on Saturday. If you don't know where Kingsford is, that's I believe that is the tippy top of the state, as heading into Wisconsin. So how exciting is it to go up there? And it also is a Saturday game, so obviously that requires a lot of travel. I believe it's a 6-hour trip, so kind of preview that one.
Yeah, and so the game is, I believe it's listed wrong right now on MHSA. It's actually a 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kick. And so, which is crazy, right? That we're playing in a different time zone. And so it'd actually be noon Central Time, but 1 p.m. Eastern Standard. And so they are an hour off there. And I think Lauren's working to correct that today. So that should be updated for the future. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's between 5.5, 6 hours up there, depending on traffic at the bridge and bus times and all that kind of stuff. And so with that it comes unique circumstances and having to prepare for all that extra trip and hotel stays and the whole itinerary of where we're practicing and what we're having for breakfast and dinners, and it's just a whole bunch of extra stuff. And so our athletic director Lauren Wetmore has been great in helping plan for all of that stuff, and is really a great asset for us, and try to take as much of that off from my plate as possible. And so I did a great job of looking into hotels and getting those booked right away, and getting a bus planned for us, and looking into food and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's just trying to get up there, and then we got the actual game itself, which is, obviously a tough challenge. Kingsford is 9-0. They're the number one seed in our district, and they're good. Obviously, you don't win all of your games by just being average, and so it'll be the second ever meeting with Kingsford. We played them back in 2022, and they're experienced, and they're big, and they're physical, and the quarterback is extremely good. His coach's son, he was actually the quarterback for the 2022 team as a sophomore, and so now we get to see him as a senior 3 years later. Have a good amount of athleticism out on the perimeter, and that they're always going to be a tough out. They were in our same district last year, and advanced to the regional final last year by winning our district, and so we'll certainly have our hands full. But when you get to this time of year, it truly is a special time, and the kids, they just know that it's win or go home, and so that elevates the level of preparation, it elevates the level of intensity, and I'm sure that our kids are going to prepare and put on a good showing on Saturday.
Yep, it is. It's win or go home. And last time I checked, I don't think anybody wants to go home. Um, so this can be a fun matchup. Of course, all playoff games all across the state, and then of course the other matchup in your district is Clare and Ogama Heights. So that should be a good one there. Obviously, two teams that you're obviously very familiar with. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if we do somehow find a way to mess around and get the victory this week, it certainly doesn't get any easier next week. I lost both of those games to those two teams by 5 points, and if we're fortunate enough to advance, we'd expect another big time, hard hitting, physical, close game with whoever prevails out of that one.
All right. Obviously, keep you updated on how everything goes. Of course, remember that is a Saturday game at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That would be, of course, 12 p.m. Central Time. It's yeah, that's what happens when you get in the Midwest area. So that'll be fun. So well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Flying G Huddle. Tune in next week where we'll recap this game and whatever else comes about. So we will talk to you next week.